coffee, crypto, news. What does it have in common? You and me. What's up, everybody? Paul here, coming at you with all of those things and more with your crypto coffee update. But first, it is a coffee update, first and foremost. Well, second and foremost. So, simultaneous sip. Grab a cup, fill it up, and join me. That is how we start the day, right, in unison and solidarity, working towards a brighter future. All right, so first things first, the news. Now, there's a phrase in English, it's called beating a dead horse. I know it sounds kind of morbid and strange, but it just means to do something that doesn't quite make a lot of sense repeatedly and often in a fruitless kind of way. That's kind of how I feel about EOS at this point, guys. I know, I've covered it at length. We've pretty much gone over why it has all these errors as a system and how it's really not the best setup for what you would consider a blockchain. But there's more developments coming out that I just feel compelled to cover because it's new stuff that we didn't cover specifically, and we're beginning to see how, like I said, this kind of stuff would play out in such a manner and shake up a lot of people. Here's the ECAF, Emergency Measure for Protection Order. Notice they always use words like protection, for your security, save the children, stuff like that, whenever there's a bit of controversy behind the validity of the decision, but we'll get into that momentarily. Essentially what this does is, at the bottom, the refusal to process transactions of any kind for the affected EOS account, names and or public keys pending further review by claims from the arbitrator. So this account is locked. No funds go in, no funds go out, not at the behest of the user, but at the behest of the EOS arbitrator. Now, I did crop this image. You can see here the bottom portion of the image, but do your own research, folks. Always do your own research. Check below in the description for the entirety of this order. It's only a one-pager, but for the cropping's sake, I needed to kind of shrink it down. All I did was cut out the list of accounts that were affected, but like I said, DYOR, guys. So the interesting part of this section is here, above the signature. The logic and reasoning for this order will be posted at a later date. And then at the bottom, the subsection, per the rules of dispute resolution, the reasoning for a decision may follow the issuing of a decision, and said reasoning becomes part of the case file. So we literally have Sam Saposnik acting as judge, jury, and executioner for a set amount of accounts without posting any logic or reasoning. Let me give you a hypothetical. If Sam didn't like a specific user for whatever reason, could Sam just say, hypothetically, hey, this person's account, it looks really fishy. There's some strange things coming out of it. I've been privy to some information that I'll share at a later date to where I will expand the logic and update the case file for this case. However, I'm issuing an order right now to freeze all of these accounts, or this account particularly. Do you think Sam could do that without any question? Because I think he just did. Now, this is all hypothetical. I don't know Sam's motives. I don't know the guy from Adam. The point of the matter being, he has a lot more power than any one singular individual ever should have in what is considered a blockchain, and is largely appearing to be a centralized database. So let's move on. This user posted your EOS tokens will never be confiscated. 3 years, 100 years, doesn't matter. Stop the FUD. Well, it turns out that this is a jab saying stop the FUD at this meme. Sir, you've been in a coma for 3.1 years. Nice, can't wait to see how my EOS tokens are doing. Well, bad news for guy in the hospital bed there, because according to Article 15 in the EOS Constitution, your tokens indeed could be seized and auctioned to the highest bidder after no transactions are incoming or outgoing for 3 years. Yup. So if you want to be a true holder, you might want to do a transaction every 365 days or so. I guess 900 days and some change, over 1,000. The point of the matter is, if you don't do what you need to do in 3 years, you could kiss your assets bye-bye. And that was confirmed by Dan Larimer himself. Pause for a moment. This individual, Jay Jordan, ironclad integrity. The dude came out, said, hey, stop the FUD, was made privy to new information, and changed his position. Jay Jordan, if you're listening, mad props to you, dude. The world needs more people who have that level of integrity to reform their beliefs in the face of new information. After all, it's all about doing your own research, folks. So, cheers to you. But yeah, that's something that can happen. They can freeze and take your accounts, and that's because Dan Larimer, you can see him here, thoughts on perpetual property rights. I just find it extremely convenient that Dan Larimer is the architect of this system in which he asserts that property rights are not perpetual. One wonders if Dan was, say, a user of EOS, if he would have these same lofty thoughts on property rights being controlled by somebody other than himself. And property rights are axiomatic. Quick proof of that, if I raise an argument and you say, what do you mean, Paul? Well, you just proved that property rights are axiomatic because I own my body and I own my actions. I put forth an argument and you attributed that argument to me, thereby validating the idea that I own that argument and so I own my actions. If that wasn't the case, then you could turn to somebody not involved and say, oh, what do you think, Zach? Even though it's my argument that I put forth. So it's a kind of intuitive, axiomatic thing, but not for Dan apparently. He thinks property rights are very mutable, which is clear from these arbitrators freezing accounts. Not only that, I mean, there's just so many things wrong with this broken centralized system. Probably one of the largest is a very high percentage of the block producers, already so few, only 21 of them. They're using things like Amazon Web Service, Google Cloud, and Alibaba. So literally, at best, you can have 21 centralized points as your nodes. That's just how the system's designed. Even worse, what if there's not 21 nodes? What if there's only 10 of them because the majority are using things like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and Alibaba? They literally control the chain in that case. Not only that, look at the bottom. It costs $5,000 a month to run one of these things, and these guys are making $10,000 a day. That means they're profiting roughly $300,000 every month just for outsourcing what should be their responsibility. And then just to be clear, this is not every block producer. There are some block producers on the list that was created by this fantastic user over on Reddit. Again, links below in the description, and shows that some EOS block producers indeed do what's called bare, or just a bare system that they built from the ground up to do the job that the people elected them to do. But that's the thing, a lot of these, the majority even, aren't doing that. They're just outsourcing them to Amazon and Google. And of course, it doesn't end there. It never ends there. This is playing out exactly like I said it would in the previous EOS videos. Again, all you have to pay is attention. Another one, EOS core arbitration form, another emergency order, an amendment, an additional emergency order. You can see at the bottom, revocation of tokens and exclusion of members. So this isn't just users' accounts being frozen. This is user accounts literally being drained of their assets and redistributed to new holders. This is theft to the highest order. Now, maybe they're criminals, maybe this is justified. Again, we try to give benefit of the doubt here. We don't just want to cast shadows saying that, oh, this is bad and this is immoral and this is wrong without sufficient evidence. But quite frankly, if you're going to revoke someone's earned property, and then, you can see it here on the next slide, a new arbitrator apparently, a guy named Michael Kimani, as per the dispute resolution rules, the reasoning for a decision may follow the issuing of an order and will be made available at a later date. So no reason given. Literally, hey, these accounts, drain them. Take all the money out of them and redistribute it to person who is unclear. We don't know who. It's like literally Wells Fargo or some other major centralized institution. Have you ever been charged an overdraft fee at your bank? Maybe. Definitely know it exists. You ever been charged an overdraft fee for Bitcoin? Nope, because it's just not possible. You have what you have, and that's it, and it's up to you to secure it. Well, here in EOS, it looks like that's not the case. These arbitrators are judge, jury, and executioner of your funds per the Constitution. In fact, there's nothing you can do about it, because at the end of it, it's the EOS Constitution. That's the law in EOS, followed by the maxim of equities, followed by the law of the nation of Malta. This is not a blockchain. This is a permissioned ledger, a centralized database. That's not even a unique centralized database. Largely, it's being outsourced to existing legacy systems like Amazon Web Service and Google. So, that's EOS for you. And just to put a cap in this, turns out that I noticed some strange things pertaining to EOS. 12 minutes after being posted on CryptoPanic, immediately 9 upvotes, 8 tags is important. Yes, it is an important article, but I've noticed this happens very quickly for EOS posts in particular before being hit with the native flood of downvotes, generally in a 2 to 3 hour range that follows when it's on the front page near the top. That's just kind of how the information flows, but I don't know who's monitoring these posts. I don't know if it's normal. I don't know if it's native. All I know is that as soon as something is posted about EOS that has a positive sentiment, it's hit with a bunch of green arrows and yellow important symbols. So just strange. Again, I don't have any basis for that, just something that I noticed. Here's another image of it blown up. You can see the 9 arrows and the 8 important symbols. Yeah, no basis for that, just interesting hypothesis. But that's all we have for the news today. I know it was a little bit long, and I know I said we covered this before, but relevant information. New developments about the slow and steady burning, fiery collapse of what is a hybridization and bastardization of a blockchain and legacy databases. So let's go ahead and get into what's actually happening for June 25th, Monday. The Synergy Blockchain Summit's kicking off in Palo Alto. The World Blockchain Summit's happening in Frankfurt. IOTA is having a meetup in Tokyo, and Lisk is having their meetup in Rotterdam. Moving on to Tuesday, June 26th, the Blockchain Summit 2018 is going on in London. Tron is having their elections, hopefully they'll go better than EOS, and Lisk is having a meetup in Amsterdam. That's all we have for today for this Crypto Coffee update. As usual, links below in the description and a big old list of B-list tokens. They're fine projects. It's just there's far too much to talk about with respect to time. So if I didn't mention your favorite project or something that you want to hear about, let me know below in the comments, because if I don't know, I don't know. You got to let me know for me to know, so hit me up. Let me know what you want me to cover. There's some interesting stuff out there, as we've been seeing with major projects like EOS and smaller, lesser-known projects that are making some waves in the crypto space. So, yeah, that's all we have for today. Thanks so much for watching. Your support means the world. If you can, drop us a like on Steemit or on DTube, on Viewly in particular. We get some great benefits for that. We are not a monetized channel after all. It's just a labor of love to bring this information to you guys. But for now, my name is Paul, signing off. Remember, we are Cryptide, and the tide is rising.